Good evening, my dear students. How have you been? Today we're going to talk about sequences and we're going to revise the elements of the story. So let's start with the sequences. What's the meaning of the sequences? The sequences are the steps of doing something. For example, if we want to make, let's see, a sandwich. First, we're going to get the bread. Next, we're going to get the jam and peanut butter. Then we're going to spread the jam on one slice and the peanut butter on the other slice, and we'll put them together. Last, we will eat them. So what's the meaning of sequences? The sequences are the steps of doing something. Even if we go to, for example, the garden, we can say first I prepare my things to the picnic. Next, I took them and I went to the garden. Then I play on the seesaw, for example, or I slide on the sled. Last, I sit and eat my food. So we can use the sequences to tell about an event, for example. So the sequences are first, next, then last. First, next, then last. Don't forget them. So let's see here. If we want to make a bowl of ice cream, first we're going to get the bowl. Next, we're going to peel a banana and put it in the bowl. Then we're going to put the ice cream. Last, we're going to put the cherries and we'll eat them. If we want to make a pizza, first we will roll out a dough with the rolling pin. This is the rolling pin and this is the dough. We will roll the dough with what? The dough with a rolling pin. Next, we're going to put the sauce and cheese. Then we're going to put the pepperoni, maybe the tomatoes, if you want to put, for example, olives, mushroom, or whatever you want. Last, we're going to put it in the oven. We'll bake it and eat it. So these are the sequences. If we want to make a banana milkshake, first, peel the banana. Next, slice it, then put it in the blender. After that, put the milk. Next, turn it on. Finally, drink the milkshake. So this is the meaning of sequences. Now let's revise the story elements. You know them already, but let's revise them. What are the story elements? We're going to start with the author and illustrator because they are the persons who wrote the story and drew the picture. So what's the meaning of author? Look at the picture here, or the illustrator, he has a pen. That means he writes the story. Then we have the illustrator. What's the meaning of illustrator? The illustrator, he's the person who draws the picture. Here we have the title. The title is the name of the story. The setting where the story takes place. It's like the place and the time. For example, in Bruno's new home, the setting is the forest. The season was winter because the bear needs to hibernate. Bruno, or the bird, needs to hibernate. The time, it was during the day. This is the setting. That's mean the time and the place. The characters, who are the characters? Bruno's and the squirrel. So the characters are the people or animals in the story. Here we have conflict. The conflict is the problem of the story, like in Bruno's new home. Bruno's doesn't fit inside the opening of the cave. This is the problem. And how did he solve it? The resolution. How did he solve the problem? What was the solution? The squirrel helped him to make it bigger or to clean the dirt. Okay, here are the sequences again. If we want to plant a seed, first get the seeds. Next, put them in the soil. Then water them. Last, the flower will grow. Now let's talk about the story's elements for our story, the dream catcher. In the beginning, what are the setting in the dream catcher? It was in front of the house, or we can say in the front yard of the house, and in the house. When Peter came back from the school, he was crying, and he was nervous. So he was in front of the house, then they get inside the house, right? The characters, Peter and his Nokomis, or his grandmother. The plot, what happened in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. What happened in the beginning of the story? Peter was sad because he had to make a presentation, but he doesn't have any idea. In the middle, he asked his grandmother to tell him about any tradition from their culture, and she told him about the dream catcher. At the end, they made a dream catcher, and he decided to learn his friends how to make one. So, what was the conflict or the problem of the story? Peter had to make a presentation about any tradition, but he hasn't any idea. The solution or the resolution, it was to make a dream catcher. Okay, we talked before about the sequences. The sequences is the order in which events take place. That means words like first, then, next, and last may be used to tell about an event. If we go to somewhere, if we do something, for example, I decided to make a dream catcher, for example. First, I brought the circles. Next, I brought the feathers. Then I start to make it. Last, I put it beside my bed. This is an event, okay? Now, let's talk about the reading genre or the genre of our story. Our story is realistic fiction. What's the meaning of realistic fiction? The realistic fiction is a story using made-up characters but could happen in the real life. So again, what's the realistic fiction? It's a made-up story. It has real characters and events, or characters and events that could be exist in the real life, or it could happen in the real life. It has beginning, middle, and end. It has illustrations and dialogue. What's the meaning of dialogue? It's like a conversation between two or more than two people. Now get your turn practice book, open page 13, and let's read. Where is my book? Here. Find your book, open page number 13. And let's start. Read the passage. Use the visualize strategy to help you understand what the characters are describing. What's the meaning of visualize strategy? That's mean try to imagine the story. It's like playing a video in your head. You can imagine the setting, the characters, and the events. Try to imagine everything. Picture it in your mind, okay? So giving thanks. Tom was happy because it was the last day before Thanksgiving weekend. He grabbed his lunch from his kitchen. That's mean he took it from his kitchen table and went to school. In the lunchroom after morning classes, he sat next to Anna, a new student from India. So Anna was from India. He had never talked to her before. Are you excited for the long weekend? He asked. Of course, she said. But why do we have these days off? She didn't know what is the Thanksgiving. He said, Thanksgiving? Of course, Tom said. Do you know what it is? No, we don't have. We don't have it where I'm from, she said. Now we're going to talk. Let's look at this heading, Thanksgiving in America. Oh, Thanksgiving is so much fun, Tom said. We get to spend precious time with family and friends. That's valuable time. First now, here we have sequences, okay? First, what did they do? We have a big feast with turkey. What's the meaning of big feast? That's mean big meal. How did we know? Because they said here we have context clues with turkey, mashed potatoes, and pie. That's mean here they have a lot of food. That's mean the feast is a big meal. After the feast, I go outside and play here and play football with my brothers. But why do you have this tradition? She asked. It's to remind, now they're gonna explain what is the Thanksgiving and why do they have this tradition. It's to remind everyone to give thanks for our food and everything from the past year. In our religion, we say Alhamdulillah, but it's different maybe in their religion. So let's read about it, but we don't have the Thanksgiving. We can say Alhamdulillah anytime. So he said, I learned in Miss Boone's class that the first Thanksgiving was way back in 1621 between the English colonists and Native Americans. What's the meaning of colonist here? That means the people who live in a colony or settle down in a new country. Okay, turn your page number 14. Let me turn my page. Thanksgiving in India. Now we're going to read about Thanksgiving in India. Wow, that sounds great, said Anna. In my country, we also give thanks. We do it in a different way. Did you see they have a different way to give thanks? And we have a different way too. Really? Tom said, how? I'm from a place in India called Tamil Nadu. It's the name of this place. She said, in January, we celebrate something called Pongal. It's an unfamiliar word. What's the meaning of Pongal? We will know that from the context clues. We're going to look at the words before and after the word. Where is it? Here, Pongal. Okay, Pongal? What does that mean? Tom asked. It's an Indian dish. So what is the Pongal? It's an Indian dish, she said. During the Pongal festival, food is cooked in pots until it boils and spills over. It's a symbol of good times for us. Wow, Tom said. How do you celebrate? First, we give thanks to the rain and sun for help with farming. We even thank the cattle that mean the cows and the sheep, said Anna. Then we throw away old things and wear new clothes. We eat food and spend time with family. I thought that the United States was the only country that had a holiday like Thanksgiving. Tom said, I guess I was wrong. She said, yes, there are many types of harvest festival. What's the meaning of harvest festival? All over the world, where people, now they will explain, where people give thanks for food and crops, she said. I guess we all have a lot to be thankful for, he said, and they both agreed. Now let's look at the illustrations here. We can see Tom and Anna. They were talking about the Thanksgiving festival. You can reread it if you want, okay? Or you can listen to the recording again. So now open page number 15, reread the passage and answer the questions. In paragraph 6, what is the first thing that Tom does on Thanksgiving? Let's open the first page. He said in paragraph 6, and they said, what did he do first? So here we have first. So what did he do? First, we have the big feast with turkey, mashed potatoes, and pie. So this is the first answer. Let me change the color. It's not clear. So let's write here. He has big feast with turkey, mashed potatoes, and pie. Number 2. What's the next thing that Tom does on Thanksgiving? Let's go back again. What's the next thing here? After that feast, I go outside and play football with my brothers. So he goes outside and play football with his brothers. This is the second answer. We're going to write it here. He goes outside and plays football with his brothers. In the passage, find another example of sequence under the head Thanksgiving in India. What's the first thing that happens in this example? Let's see. This is Thanksgiving in India. Let's find the word first. It's here, but let's change the color again. First, we give thanks to the rain and sun for help with farming. We should write until the period here. So what did they do? During Pongal, people give thanks to the rain and sun for help with farming. And you should write number 3. So let's go back here. And let's write the answer. During Pongal, people give thanks to the rain and sun for help with farming. Okay. So if you finish, turn your page and open page number 16. Write the day and the date. Today is Wednesday, 15th of September, 2021. Okay. So let's read this text and answer it. A family tradition. My mother asked, how do you say goodbye to your Lula? Jamor. Lula is the Filipino word for grandmother. Please remind me, I said in the Philippines. My mother explained. We have a tradition called Manopo. When you say hello or goodbye to your elders, that's mean elders, you touch the right hand to your forehead. Look at the illustration to see that. Her right hand on his, it is, her right hand was on his forehead. Here. When you say hello or goodbye to your elders, you touch the right hand to your forehead. It's a sign of respect. I touched my Lula's hand to my forehead. Manopo Lula, that's mean goodbye, my grandmother, I said. Now, how do you know this text is realistic fiction? Let's look at the illustration here. They look like the people and they talk and act that like the people. It's a made-up story, but it can happen in the real life. So the characters act and talk like people do in real life. So it can happen in the real life. What's dialogue? How does it show that the text is realistic? What's the meaning of dialogue? That's mean like a conversation when 2 or more than 2 persons or people talk to each other. So dialogue is the action words the characters speak. It shows that the characters speak the way people speak in real life. What is an example of actual words the characters speak? These speak many words. Let's look at here. His mother asked him, how do you say goodbye to your Lola Jamor? This is one. And he said, please remind me. What else here? She said, we have a tradition called Manopo. When you say hello or goodbye, here, you touch the right hand to your forehead. It's a sign of respect. He said, I touched my Lula's hand to my forehead and said, Manopo Lula. So let's write the last one here, Manopo Lula. That's mean goodbye, my grandmother. What does the illustration add to the text? It shows us what the Manopo tradition actually look like. Thank you for listening. See you later, grade 3. Goodbye. See you in the next session, inshallah. Bye-bye.